Welcome. Today we are looking at minor prophetic books, the Old Testament. This was question 1 in this year's kcse CRE paper 1. Remember that there are 12 minor prophetic books, and these are Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. The effect of the translation of the Bible into African languages. This was question 1B in this year's KCSE. So these were the answers which were marked as correct. So, number 1, the scriptures have been written in languages that Africans can understand. So, this point is in the present sense because even up to today's, the translation of the Bible into African languages, Africans can still understand. Number 2, it has enabled further spread of Christianity, or rather, you can say it has led to more converts. Still, it's in the present tense because it's still happening up to today. Number 3, it led to rise of African independent churches. Or in this point, you could have said it has led to the rise of schools. So here we are talking about it led to because it is during that time. Number 4, it led to development of reading, or you can say writing or formal education. So this was the same point as it led to literacy. Number 5, it led to establishment of printing press to meet more demands of the Bible. So this point was the same as it led to the establishment of publishing houses. So another effect of translation of the Bible into African languages is that it led to establishment of Bible society to translate the Bible into more local languages. Number 7, it has led to further research into African religious heritage. Or rather, you could have said it has led to the practice of African religious heritage. Number 8, it has created jobs, you can say also employment in the printing farms or publishing farms. So we are talking about it in the present tense because it is still happening today. Number 9, it led to Africans identifying with Christianity. Or rather, it's the same point with it led to Africans worshipping in churches. Number 10, it led to development of African local languages. Number 11, it has promoted ecumenical movements among Christians. Another result of the translation of the Bible into African languages is that it made Africans to demand for leadership roles in the church. Number 13, it has led to division in the church due to distant interpretation of the scriptures. Lessons Christians learn from the story of the rich man and Lazarus. In this, we are going to read Luke chapter 16 from verse 19 to 31, the Revised Standard Version. The rich man and Lazarus. There was a rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen, and who feasted sumptuously every day. And at his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, full of sores, who desired to be fed with what fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. The poor man died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried, and in Hades, being in torment, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham far off and Lazarus in his bosom. And he called out, Father Abraham, have mercy upon me, and send Lazarus to dip the end of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in anguish in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that you in your lifetime received your good things, and Lazarus in like manner evil things. But now is comforted here, and you are in anguish. And Besides all these, between us and you a great child has been fixed, in order that those who would pass from here to you may not be able, nor may cross from there to us. And he said, I beg you, Father, to send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, so that he may warn them, lest they also come into this place of torment. But Abraham said, I have Moses and the prophet, let them hear them. And he said, No, Father Abraham, but if someone goes to them from the dead, they will repent. Said to him, if they do not hear Moses, the prophet, neither will they be convinced if someone should rise from the dead. Lessons Christians learn from the story of the rich man and Lazarus. Number 1, wealth should not be used to buy luxuries when others are suffering. Rather, when others are languishing in misery, poverty. Or you can say, wealth should not be used for one's glory only. Number 2, wealth should be used to alleviate the suffering of others. That is, wealth should be used to help the poor, the needy. Number 3, the rich should show concern for the suffering of others. That is, wealth should be used to spread the good news, or rather, glorify God. Number 5, use the earthly wealth to acquire a place in the kingdom of God. 6, wealth should not be used to oppress or humiliate poor. Wealth should not be used selfishly. That is, it should be shared. Look at the activities carried out by the Israelites on the night of the Passover. This was question 2A in this year's kcse. In order to understand better and to know where the answers are, we are going to read Exodus chapter 12 from verse 1 to 14, Revised Standard Version. Remember, all the answers are gotten from the Bible. First, Passover instituted. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month shall mark for you the beginning of month. It shall be the first month of the year for you. Tell the whole congregation of Israel that on the 10th of this month they are to take a lamb, each family, a lamb for each household. The household is too small for a whole lamb. It shall join its closest neighbor in obtaining one. The lamb shall be divided in proportion the number of people who eat of it. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a year-old male. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep it until the 14th day of this month, and the whole assembled congregation of Israel shall slaughter it at twilight. They shall take some of the blood, put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel, the houses in which they eat it. They shall eat the lamb that same night. They shall eat it roasted over the fire with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roasted over the fire with its head, legs, and inner organs. You shall let none of it remain until the morning. Anything that remains until the morning you shall burn. This is how you shall eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it hurriedly. It is the Passover of the Lord. Wait, for I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both human beings and animals. On all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you live. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague shall destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be a day of remembrance for you. You shall celebrate it as a festival, the Lord. Throughout your generations you shall observe it as a perpetual ordinance. From the scripture, these are the activities carried out by the Israelites the night of the Passover. Number 1, the Israelites slaughtered the animals or goats, or you can call them sheep. Number 2, he smeared blood on their doorposts, stroke frames. Number 3, he roasted the animals whole. Number 4, they ate unleavened bread. Rather, you can say they also ate bitter herbs, or they ate roasted meat. Still the same point. They ate while standing. Remember, this was to show they were in a hurry. They dressed, packed their belongings. Number 7, they burnt leftovers. Rather, you could say they burnt the remains. Number 8, they remained in their houses. Or you can say they remained indoors. Number 9, they chose a lamb 1 year old without blemish. At number 10, the Israelites women borrowed jewelry from the Egyptian women or the Egyptians. Thanks, lessons Christians learn from the ministry of Prophet Elijah. Number 1, Christians should worship the true God only. Number 2, Christians should courageously condemn all forms of corruption. Rather, you can say Christians should courageously condemn evil in the society. Number 3, Christians should be loyal, or you can say obedient to God. Number 4, Christians should be willing to carry out God's work despite the challenges they may face. Rather, you can say that Christians should be willing to endure persecutions for the sake of Christ. Number 5, Christians should lead holy, or you can call it righteous lives to avoid God's punishment. Number 6, Christians should be prayerful. Christians should fight for the poor or the weak to avoid any form of oppression. This is the same point as Christians should promote justice in the society. Number 8, Christians should trust or rather have faith in God. Question number 2C. This year's kcse, that is, we are looking at the reasons why some people in Kenya find it difficult to worship God. Number 1, some people have a lot of wealth, or rather you can say they have a lot of influence or power or even pride. Therefore, they see no need of worshiping God. Number 2, other people live in abject poverty as they lose hope in God. Some people are discouraged by bad examples set by some members or leaders. This point is the same as poor role models. Another reason why some people in Kenya find it difficult to worship God is influenced by modern technology, whereby some people spend more time on their phones or even computers as they have no time to worship God. Or you can say science and technology providing solutions to many problems. Therefore, people are not able to rely on God. Number 5, constant conflicts in some churches. Rather, you can say ethnic differences discourages people from worshiping God. This is what most people call leadership wrongholes. Number 6, some people have no faith in God or even spiritual matters. Therefore, they cannot worship God. This is the same point as some people have no knowledge in God. Number 7, some people give up on worshiping God when their needs are not met, rather when their prayers are not answered. Number 8, some people do not worship God because they believe in other forces. They believe in other powers of darkness. That is witchcraft or even devil worship. That is, they do not worship God because they believe in witchcraft. Number 9, some people fear to be ridiculed or mocked by their friends or even peers as they fail to worship God. Number 10, ethnic differences or discrimination. Another reason why some people in Kenya find it difficult to worship God is hostility, or you can call it insecurity. The same way due to sickness also. Number 12, some people fail or find it difficult to worship God due to job commitments or rather busy schedules. At number 13, permissiveness in the society. Looking at how Abraham demonstrated his faith in God. Number 1, he obeyed God's call. Rather, you can say he left his homeland to a known land. Number 2, he agreed to enter into a covenant relationship with God. And this point is at the same point as he offered animals or birds for sacrifice. Number 3, Abraham was willing to sacrifice his only son Isaac. Number 4, he accepted to be circumcised together with his household. Number 5, Abraham built altars for God at Shechem and Bethel. This was, remember, to worship God. Number 6, he agreed to change his name and that of his wife. Number 7, Abraham believed in the promises given to him by God. And at number 8, he abandoned the worship of idols and started worshiping the true God, that is Yahweh. And at number 9, he offered animals stroke birds for sacrifices. So this point will not be, it's the same point as point number 2, as I said earlier, because it is on its own. He offered sacrifices to God. KCSE paper 1, question 4C, which said, ask the ways in which the church is promoting social justice in Kenya today. Number 1, by educating the public on social justice. This was the same point as by providing civic education, or you can say by holding seminars or workshops. Number 2, by respecting or obeying the laws of the country as laid down by the government. Number 3, by helping the needy in the society. Number 4, by preaching on social justice. Number 5, the church guides and counsels victims of social injustice. Number 6, the church condemns injustices in the society. Another way in which the church is promoting social justice in Kenya today is the church prays for people, or rather you can say the church leaders practice social justice. Number 8, the church advocates for equal distribution of resources, or rather you can say the church fights for the rights of the less privileged in the society. Number 9, members of the church lead exemplary lives by being just or fair, or by being good role models. Number 10, the church punishes its herald members. This is those who do wrong. Number 11, the church reports those who commit social injustices to the relevant authority, or rather you can say the church exposes the culprits. Number 12, creation of job opportunities, rather economic empowerment. This is in order for people to be able to fully cater for themselves and avoid committing injustices. We are looking at the answers to the kcse's CRE paper 1 examination, and we are tackling question 4A, which asked ways in which the Israelites disobeyed God during the term of Prophet Amos. Number 1, the Israelites practiced idolatry, or rather you can say the Israelites practiced hypocritical religion. Number 2, there was murder. Number 3, the rich oppressed the poor, or rather it's the same point to say the rich sold the poor as slaves. Number 4, there was sexual immorality, or rather you can say there was temple prostitution. Number 5, there was cheating in business. So it is the same point as they used forced scales. Number 6, the rich were selfish, or you can say greedy. This is the same point as the rich lived in excessive luxury. Number 7, there was drunkenness in Israel, therefore forcing the Nazarites to drink wine. Number 8, there was bribery, or you can say there was injustice in the courts of law. This you can call it the same point as you can say there was corruption in the courts of law. Number 9, there was robbery, or rather you can say there was violence. Question 3B in this year's KCSE paper 1, it is forms of punishment prophesied by Elijah to King Ahab and Jezebel after taking Naboth's vineyard. First, we are going to read the Bible. First Kings chapter 21 from verse 1 to 16, the Revised Standard Version. Naboth Vineyard. Now Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard in Jezreel, beside the palace of King Ahab, king of Samaria. And after this, Ahab said to Naboth, "Give me your vineyard, that I may have it for a vegetable garden, because it is near my house, and I will give you a better vineyard for it. Or, if it seems good to you, I will give you its value in money." But Naboth said to Ahab, "The Lord forbid that I should give you inheritance of my fathers." And Ahab went into his house vexed and sullen because of what Naboth the Jezreelite had said to him. For he had said, "I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers." And he lay down on his bed and turned away his face and would eat no food. But Jezebel his wife came to him and said to him, "Why is your spirit so vexed that you eat no food?" And he said to her, "Because I spoke to Naboth the Jezreelite and said to him, 'Give me your vineyard for money, or else, if it please you, I will give you another vineyard for it.' And he answered, 'I will not give you my vineyard.' And Jezebel his wife said to him, Do you now govern Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let your heart be cheerful. I will give you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite." So she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal. And she sent the letters to the elders and the nobles who dwelt with Naboth in his city. And she wrote in the letters, "Proclaim a fast, and set Naboth on high among people, and set 2 base fellows opposite him, and let them bring a charge against him, saying, 'You have cursed God and the king.' Then take him out and stone him to death." And the men of his city, the elders and the nobles who dwelt in his city, did as Jezebel had said word to them. And it was written in the letters which she had sent to them. They proclaimed a fast and set Naboth high among the people. And the 2 base fellows came in and sat opposite him. The base fellows brought a charge against Naboth in the presence of the people, saying, "Naboth cursed God and the king." So they took him outside the city and stoned him to death with stones. Then he sent to Jezebel, saying, "Naboth has been stoned, he dead." As soon as Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned and was dead, Jezebel said to Ahab, "Arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give you for money, for Naboth is not alive but dead." And as soon as Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, Ahab arose to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite to take possession of it. Forms of punishment prophesied by Elijah, King Ahab, and Jezebel after taking Naboth's vineyard. The death of King Ahab would be in the same place where Naboth was stoned, rather killed. But 2, God would bring evil upon King Ahab. 3, God would take away the prosperity of Ahab. That is, Ahab's rule would come to an end. 4, dogs would lick blood of Ahab where Naboth's blood was licked. 5, all the male children or slaves of King Ahab would be cut off. Dogs would anybody from Ahab's home who die in the city. 7, birds of the air would eat anybody from Ahab's house who would die in the fields. 8, dogs would eat the body of Jezebel, or rather you can say Jezebel will die at the boughs of Jezreel, describing the incident in which King Ahab took Naboth's vineyard. First, we are going to read First Kings chapter 21 from verse 1 to 16, the Revised Standard Version. Naboth Vineyard. Now Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard in Jezreel, beside the palace of King Ahab, king of Samaria. And after this, Ahab said to Naboth, "Give me me your vineyard, that I may have it for a vegetable garden, because it is near my house, and I will give you a better vineyard for it. Or, if it seems good to you, I will give you its value in money. But Naboth said to Ahab, the Lord forbid that I should give you inheritance of my fathers. And Ahab went into his house vexed and sullen because of what Naboth the Jezreelite had said to him. For he had said, I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers. And he lay down on his bed and turned away his face and would eat no food. But Jezebel his wife came to him and said to him, Why is your spirit so vexed that you eat no food? And he said to her, Because I spoke to Naboth the Jezreelite and said to him, Give me your vineyard for money, or else, if it please you, I will give you another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give you my vineyard. And Jezebel his wife said to him, Do you now govern Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let your heart be cheerful. I will give you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal. And she sent the letters to the elders and the nobles who dwelt with Naboth in his city. And she wrote in the letters, Proclaim a fast, and set Naboth on high among people, and set 2 base fellows opposite him, and let them bring a charge against him, saying, You have cursed God and the king. Then take him out and stone him to death. And the men of the city, and the men of his city, the elders and the nobles who dwelt in his city, did as Jezebel had said word to them. And it was written in the letters which she had sent to them. They proclaimed a fast, and set Naboth high among the people. And the 2 base fellows came in and sat opposite him. And the base fellows brought a charge against Naboth in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth cursed God and the king. So they took him outside the city and stoned him to death with stones. Then he sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth has been stoned, he dead. As soon as Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned and was dead, Jezebel said to Ahab, Arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give you for money, for Naboth is not alive but dead. And as soon as Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, Ahab arose to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite to take possession of it. The incident in which King Ahab took Naboth's vineyard. Naboth had a vineyard in Jezreel beside the palace of King Ahab. King Ahab asked Naboth to give him the vineyard, that is to sell it to him for a vegetable garden. Naboth refused to sell it to King Ahab because it was an inheritance from his forefathers. King Ahab went home dejected, rather you can say sad or disappointed, refused to eat. His wife Jezebel asked him why he was sad, and Ahab explained what Naboth told him. Jezebel asked him whether he was the king or not, and she said she would give Ahab the vineyard of Naboth. Jezebel wrote letters to the elders of the city, instructing them to accuse Naboth of blasphemy, rather you can call it treason. The elders organized for Naboth to be punished, rather you can say be killed. Naboth was taken outside the city where he was stoned, rather you can say he was killed. When Jezebel heard about the death of Naboth, she told King Ahab to go and take possession of the vineyard. King Ahab went to possess the vineyard. Let's see in this year's kcse, that is the ways in which the government of Kenya supports the church in its work. Number 1, the government has allowed freedom of worship, or rather you can say the government has given permission to churches to operate electronic media stations. Number 2, by allowing Christian religious education to be taught in schools, or rather colleges. Number 3, the government recognizes the church calendar, or you can say that the government recognizes holidays. Number 4, by setting aside land for construction of churches. Another way that the government of Kenya supports church in its work is that the government gives financial, or you can call it material support to churches for development, or rather to carry out their charitable services. Number 6, by employing some church leaders as chaplains in various government institutions, especially also remember in schools, in universities. Number 7, the government supports church sponsors institutions. Number 8, by availing facilities for the church to hold the activities. Or rather, you can just say the government provides security. This is seen especially when there are services in the church. Number 9, by involving church leaders in national prayer days, or you can say by involving church leaders in national holidays. And at number 10, the government in Kenya supports the church by or through the development of the infrastructure, which makes the spread of the gospel easy, or you can say which makes evangelism easy. 5A, in this year's KCSE, the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem under the leadership of Nehemiah. So, because they normally get the answers from the Bible, we are going to read Nehemiah chapter 12 from verse 27 to 43, the Revised Standard Version. Dedication of the city wall. Now, at the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem, they sought out the Levites in all their places to bring them to Jerusalem to celebrate the dedication with rejoicing, with thanksgiving, and with singing, with cymbals, harps, and lyres. The companies of the singers gathered together from the circuit around Jerusalem and from the villages of the Netophathites, also from Beth Gigal and from the religion of Geba and Asmaveth, for the singers had to build for themselves villages around Jerusalem. And the priests and the Levites purified themselves, and they purified the people and the gates and the wall. Then I brought the leaders of Judah up onto the wall and appointed two great companies that gave thanks and went in possession. One went to the right on the wall to the dark gate, and after them went Hoshea and half the officials of Judah, and Azariah, Ezra, Meshullam, Judah, Benjamin, Shemaiah, and Jeremiah. And some of the young priests with trumpets, Zechariah, son of Jonathan, son of Shemaiah, son of Mattaniah, son of Micaiah, son of Zakah, son of Asaph, and his kindred, Shemaiah, Azarel, Melalai, Ilalai, Mai, Nathaniel, Judah, and Hanani, with the musical instruments of David, the man of God, and the scribe Ezra went in front of them. At the fountain gate in front of them, they went straight up by the stairs of the city of David and the ascent of the wall above the house of David to the water gate on the east. The other company of those who gave thanks went to the left, and I followed them with half of the people on the wall, above the tower of the ovens to the broad wall, and above the gate of Ephraim, and by the old gate, and by the fish gate, and the tower of Hananel, and the tower of 100 to the sheep gate, and they came to a hold at the gate of the guard. So both companies of those who gave thanks stood in the house of God, and I and half of the officials with me, and the priests Eliakim, Messiah, Ninaimin, Micaiah, Elionai, Zechariah, and Ananiah, with trumpets, and Messiah, Shemaiah, Elazar, Uzi, Jehonan, Machijah, Elam, and Ezra, and the singers sang with Jezariah and the leader. They offered great sacrifices that day and rejoiced, for God had made them rejoice with great joy. The women and the children also rejoiced. The joy of Jerusalem was heard far away. So now we are going to look at the main points. Now you were to explain what was important to mention in explaining the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem. Number one, Nehemiah summoned the Levites, or you can call them the priests, to come to Jerusalem to give thanks to God. The sons of the singers gathered around Jerusalem. They sang and praised God using musical instruments. The Levites, or you can call them the priests, or rather the people, purified themselves. The gates were purified. Nehemiah brought the priests, Nehemiah brought the prince or the princess of Judah. Nehemiah appointed two great groups which went in two processions. One group, led by Ezra, the scribe, went to the right, while the other group, led by Nehemiah, went to the left. They then converged in the house of God. The people, led by the priests, offered sacrifices of dedication to God. Women and children rejoiced, or rather, you can say it was a moment of joy for women and children. Nehemiah then chose people who would ensure that the contributions, or rather the tithes, or you can call them the offerings, were handled well. Then a service of purification was performed. We are going to look at the reasons why Nehemiah carried out religious reforms in Judah. Remember, this was question 5B in this year's kcse CRE paper 1. So in order to understand better where they got the answers, we are going to read Nehemiah chapter 13, the Revised Standard Version. On that day, they read from the book of Moses in the hearing of the people, and in it it was found written that no Ammonite or Moabite should ever enter the assembly of God, for they did not meet the children of Israel with bread and water. I had Balaam against them to curse them, yet our God turned the curse into a blessing. When the people heard the law, they separated from Israel all those of foreign descent, the reforms of Nehemiah. Now before this, Eliashib the priest, who was appointed over the chambers of the house of our God, and who was connected with Tobiah, prepared for Tobiah a large chamber where they had previously put the cereal offering, the frankincense, the vessels, and the tiles of grain, wine, and oil, which were given by commandment, the Levites, singers, and the gatekeepers, and the contributions for the priests. While this was taking place, I was not in Jerusalem, for in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes, king of Babylon, I went to the king. And after some time, I asked leave of the king and came to Jerusalem. And I then discovered the evil that Eliashib had done for Tobiah, preparing for him a chamber in the courts of the house of God. And I was very angry, and I threw all the household furniture of Tobiah out of the chamber. Then I gave orders, and they cleansed the chambers, and I brought back thither the vessels of the house of God, with the cereal offering and the frankincense. I also found out that the portions of the Levites had not been given to them, so that the Levites and the singers who did the work had fled each to his field. So I remonstrated the officials and said, "Why is the house of God forsaken?" And I gathered them together and set them in their stations. Then all Judah brought the tithe of the grain, wine, and oil into the storehouses. And I appointed as treasurers over the houses Shelemiah the priest, Zadok the scribe, and Bedaiah of the Levites, and as the assistant Hanan the son of Zakah, son of Mattaniah, for they were counted faithful, and their duty was to distribute to their brethren. Remember me, O my God, concerning these, and wipe not out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God and for his service. Sabbath reforms began. In those days, I saw in Judah men treading wine presses on the Sabbath and bringing in heaps of grain and loading them on asses, and also wine, grapes, figs, and all kinds of burdens, which they brought in Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I warned them on the day when they sold food. Men of Tyre also, who lived in the city, brought in fish and all kinds of wares and sold them on the Sabbath to the people of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I remonstrated the nobles of Judah and said to them, "What is this evil thing which you are doing, profaning the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers act in this way, and did not our God bring all this evil on us and on this city? Yet you bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath." When it began to be dark at the gates of Jerusalem before the Sabbath, I commanded that the doors should be shut and gave orders that they should not be opened until after the Sabbath. And I sent some of my servants over the gates, that no burden might be brought in on the Sabbath day. And the merchants and the sellers of all kinds of wares launched outside Jerusalem once or twice. But I warned them and said to them, "Why do you lodge before the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you." From that time on, they did not come on the Sabbath, and I commanded the Levites that they should purify themselves and come and guard the gates to keep the Sabbath day holy. Remember these also in my favor, O my God, and spare me according to the greatness of thy steadfast love. Mixed marriages condemned. In those days also I saw the Jews who had married women of Ashdod, Ammon, and Moab. And half of their children spoke the language of Ashdod, and they could not speak the language of Judah, but the language of each people. And I contended with them, and cast them, and beat some of them, and pulled out their hair. And I made them take oath in the name of God, saying, "You shall not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons, or for yourselves." Did not Solomon king of Israel sin on account of such women? Among the many nations there was no king like him, and he was beloved by God. And God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, foreign women made even him to sin. Shall we then listen to you and do all this great evil, and act treacherously against our God by marrying foreign women? And one of the sons of Jehoiada, the son of Eliashib, the high priest, was the son-in-law of Sanballat the Horonite. Therefore I chased him from me. Remember them, O my God, because they have defiled the priesthood and the covenant of the priesthood and the Levites. Thus I cleansed them from everything foreign, and I established the duties of the priests and Levites, each in his work. And I provided for the wood offering at appointed times, and for the first fruits, remember me, O my God, for good. That is the word of the Lord. Religious reforms in Judah. Number 1, to preserve the identity of the Jews as the people of God. Number 2, to separate the Jews from foreign influence. Number 3, to purify the temple which had been defiled by keeping a foreigner. Number 4, to reinstate the services of the Levites as priests, or rather singers of the temple. Number 5, to restore the tithing system that had been forgotten for the upkeep of the temple. Another reason why also Nehemiah carried out religious reforms in Judah is to ensure that the Sabbath day was free from business activities, or rather to ensure that the Sabbath day was kept holy. Is still the same point. Number 7, Nehemiah wanted the Israelites to remain faithful to the covenant way of life. And then, number 8, he wanted to uphold the Hebrew language of the covenant people, which had been neglected due to intermarriages. And at number 9, to restore true worship of Yahweh. or rather to restore the true worship. Looking at this year's KCSE paper 1, question 4b, that is a teaching of Prophet Amos on Israel's election. And this you'll find it in the book of Amos, chapter 2, from verse 9 to 11, and Amos chapter 3, from verse 1 to 2. It is good to first read Bible that you can be able to see how we got the answers. We are going to read the Revised Standard Version. Yet I destroyed the Amorite before them, whose height was like the height of the cinders, and who was as strong as the ox. I destroyed his fruit above and his roots beneath. Also I brought you up out of the land of Egypt and led you 40 years in the wilderness to possess the land of the Amorite. And I raised up some of your sons for prophets and some of your young men for Nazarite. Is it not indeed so, O people of Israel, says the Lord? So Israel's guilt and punishment. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O people of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up out of the land of Egypt. You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will punish you for all iniquities. That is the word of the Lord. Election was out of God's initiative. Or rather, you can say Israel's election was out of God's love for them. Number 2, the election made them a holy nation. Or rather, you can say God's chosen nation. Number 3, Israel was given a special responsibility by God, that is to serve Him. Number 4, failure to meet their responsibility to God, that is the Israelites' responsibility to God, would attract God's punishment. Number 5, God would choose any other nation of Israel. God would choose any other nation if Israel failed to serve Him. Number 6, the Israelites were delivered from bondage in Egypt by God because of the election. Number 7, God had protected the Israelites in the wilderness because of the election. Number 8, God raised priests, or rather you can call them prophets, to guide the Israelites in the covenant way of life. This is at the same point as God gave the Israelites laws to guide them in the covenant way of life. Number 9, God gave Israelites land to possess. Then number 10, God led the Israelites in the wilderness. Looking at question 6b in this year's KCSE theory paper 1. The requirements that one has to fulfill to be made an elder in traditional African communities. Number 1, having the right or the specific age. Number 2, should be knowledgeable on matters of the community. You can say should be wise on the matters of the community. What we mean is basically you should have wisdom. Number 3, should be sane, or rather should be of sound mind or good health. Number 4, one should be of good conduct or character. Here you could have said good virtues or good virtual mind. Another requirement that one has to fulfill to be made an elder is should have undergone the rites of initiation. Number 6, one should have the ability to provide for others, or rather should be wealthy. One should be a bona fide member of the community. That is, you should be a real member of the community or born in that community. Number 8, in order one to fulfill, to be made a member should be by undergoing the rituals of becoming an elder. Number 9 should be married. And at number 10 should have children. Looking at this year's KCSE paper 1. Question 6a. The role of elders in traditional African communities. Number 1, elders are custodians of traditions, or rather you can say they are custodians of customs. This was the same point as they teach the history of the community. Number 2, elders make laws in the community. Number 3, they settle disputes in the community. Number 4, they fix dates for community rituals or ceremonies. Number 5, elders preside over the distribution of property, or you can say they preside over the distribution of inheritance. Number 6, they negotiate for peace with other communities. Number 7, they advise the members of the community on the steps to take during times of difficulties or calamities. Elders also are in charge, or we can say that they preside over the community rituals or ceremonies. Number 9, they teach the youth on their responsibilities, or you can say their duties in the community. Elders also reprimand or they punish the wrongdoers or the law offenders. They act as spokesmen of their community. And number 12, they mediate before God, Spirit, ancestors, and people. Questions. 6C. In this year's KCSE, paper 1, which was about the factors that are undermining the role of elders in Kenya today. Number 1, most judicial duties have been taken over by the courts. Number 2, Christianity, or you can say modern religions, have established their own leadership styles and systems. Number 3, Western education, when learned, because when people are educated, they no longer value the elders. Number 4, urbanization, or you can call it migration, has made people to move away from their communities. Therefore, they're not depending longer on elders. Number 5, Western culture, or you can say Western way of life, which promotes individualism. And remember, the elders was to also bring the whole community together, and this Western culture urges people to act as individuals and to make their own decisions, so they don't consult with the elders. Number 6, intermarriage or intermingling has weakened the value of elders, because now people are intermarrying in different from one community to another, so these communities have different beliefs in their community, therefore weakening the values of elders. Number 7, the laws are made in parliament, or the laws are in the constitution of Kenya. So what we mean is the laws are made in parliament, or rather the constitution of Kenya is applied, so the elders have no say. Number 8, influence from modern technology, where people rely on it for information, so they no longer rely on the elders. Number 9, is wealth is taken as a symbol of status regardless of one's age. Therefore, you cannot just be an elder because you are wealthy, or you cannot. You can be wealthy even if you are at which age, especially the young age. Number 10, permissiveness in the society, or moral decadence in the society. And here by permissiveness we mean there's a lot of freedom of behavior in the society. Thanks a lot for subscribing and listening to me. God bless you.